All right, so our final water environment is going to be streams and rivers. Now, in areas where rainfall exceeds evaporation, so in the desert, that probably doesn't qualify, right? Or most of the time it doesn't qualify. So um, in areas where in the desert the rainfall falls and it evaporates. But in areas where rainfall exceeds evaporation, but what is the water going to do? It's going to seek a lower level, right? So the rainfall is going to collect in low areas and flow across the land. And we have, if we look at, if you start up in the mountains, you might have this little teensy tiny stream. And if you were to walk down that little teensy tiny stream, eventually it would join up with another teensy tiny stream and it'd be a bigger stream. And then if you were to continue walking, you could walk a long ways. If you were to continue walking, that medium-sized stream would join up with another medium-sized stream and become a large stream. And then that large stream would probably join up with the small river. And then what happens with the small rivers? Well, if you think about not such small rivers, but here in Pittsburgh, we have the Allegheny River and the Monongahela River. They come together to form the Ohio River. And where does the Ohio River go? Gulf of Mexico. So it goes to the Mississippi and eventually to the Gulf of Mexico. So we have this river continuum concept. And it basically is saying what I've said, that the rainfall collects and flows across the land and makes its way eventually to the oceans. And so even, the littlest creek out here, maybe by your house, is eventually that water that doesn't evaporate is eventually going to make its way to the ocean. And in this area, it's going to be the Gulf of Mexico down the Mississippi River. Now, what happens though is we have a lot of life in those streams. So if you've ever played in the stream, there's little crayfish and little tiny fish and various types of insect larvae, and they're found in very distinct parts of the river. So you have certain kinds of organisms that live in the real little streams, and then other ones that are living in bigger streams, and then things like catfish that are living in the big rivers. Now, how do they stay there? They must in all cases, they're going to have to deal with a problem called downstream drift. And that means basically that the water is always trying to push them downstream. So all organisms in a river or stream environment are having to move upstream in some manner to maintain themselves in the part of the water system where they are found. Now, if we talk about the source of energy in these environments, if we talk about the little tiny creeks, you'd say, well, boy, they're in the forest, right? Then there's hardly any sunlight that reaches those. So the source of energy for these little creeks is all those leaves. So the leaves fall into the water, and if you look carefully, you'll find little insect larvae that are called like stoneflies and some mayflies that are what we call shredders. And what they do is they shred those leaves, and decomposing bacteria, they feed on the bacteria that is decomposing those leaves. And so these shredders are using photosynthetic products from the forest in the stream. Then as you move further down, the trees open up, and the source of energy goes from this particulate matter to photosynthesis when you get to the rivers and things of that sort. So that's it for this slide.